Alright, so here we are in first practice. A little bit of texturing issues. We'll have to go into the settings and figure that out. And feeling really good coming in Saudi Arabia. Did our try and trial and adjusted our difficulty compared to what we
I've
were.
had a chat with the R&D team about the new parts, and we're happy that they've been integrated into the car okay. With any luck, you'll be able to feel the improvement, so go and give them a try.
Yeah, we had I believe it was... I can't view them from here. I think we had one or two parts come in from previous, between the first race and today's race, as we go through practice. So we're going to have some highlights for practice, and then qualifying, and then go on from there for the race. Alright, so our first review of practice session. I believe this is practice 2. Going to the sector 2 hairpin. We miss our braking point, go wide. We get slammed into the wall, ending our practice early. And then there's our provisional time from Q2 before we ended up slamming into the wall. So mediums at a 1:31, so that's pretty good pace. Now we're on the third practice here in sector 1. It's another situation where we missed our apex, and then we actually got stuck on the curb and it pulled us over, and then this time it's the right side. So we end up smashing this car twice here in Jeddah already, and we're not at the main race. You can see how the wheel's turning, and we're trying to turn back over without losing any wheel spin. And second retirement so far this weekend here in Jeddah, as we're heading into qualifying. Alright, now on to qualifying, as we have a little bit of a visual issue here. Not seeing our tires there as we're in the pit on these soft tires coming through sector 3. 124 coming around the end of the apex there and hitting the open DRS with our teammate Mick Schumacher close behind. Our provisional time setting a 132 on these softs. That's a slow time. If you guys remember, mediums in practice 2 with a 131. So we have a lot better run here, about 1.6 seconds, 1.7 seconds, hit the DRS. We have open air behind us and in front of us as we're going to be crossing the line. That's going to be good enough for us to get into Q2 for P8. I believe the time was 130-ish, the high 130-ish. Q2 now, 122 coming through, coming as close as we can to the wall, hitting our DRS, doing a lot better. We're still sitting on P8 for the start of Q2. Our provisional time 130.7, and we're waiting until the end. And I believe we're using the same set of tires coming through a 121, 122. So we're about the same area, about a half second ahead coming through, and we're sitting on P9 currently. So we come across the line at a 130, just over a 130, the hundreds of seconds, as we're provisional P5 coming into Q3, and our teammate doesn't make it into Q3 as well. So we're behind the Mercedes here for Q3, currently slotting in a P7, 122 out of the apex. So we're all still pretty close here. Made sure I didn't have any damage coming across the line the first time. 129.6, our fastest time yet here in practice and qualifying. Then I believe it's going to be our final run here in qualifying. 121 and 122, 3/10 ahead. So really pushing this car to its limits as we cross the line for the final time here in qualifying.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid. Norris, Hamilton, and George Russell. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
So yeah, as you guys can see, that last lap about 2/10 back. And yeah, P5 for a start here in Saudi Arabia. You guys could see a lot of mistakes through qualifying after the upsetting practice that we had. And yeah, so still a lot of improvement. The snaps of oversteer there and here and there, as you guys remember seeing that at the very end. But P5 start for myself, and again, Mick Schumacher, our teammate, just outside of the top 10 starting. See if he can improve and get into the top 10 for those final points. But Lando Norris, about 5/10 off of P2. Lewis Hamilton, about half a second back. George Russell, Max Verstappen, and then myself splitting the Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. And then once again, as you guys could see, Haas, from what I learned the other day, is that the team name changer did not get an update. So that's what's going on with the team name changer but the teams are still like that. So it is Ineos McLaren, or Ineos Mercedes, Quadrant McLaren, Alpine, and then Alfa Romeo Haas. So if they don't get it update, if nobody steps up and gets it updated, we won't have the name changer to use for the rest of the life cycle of F123. So that's very unfortunate if that does happen. Let's get to the main race. All right, guys, just giving you guys an update that we are now partnered with Dubby Energy. I'm really excited with this partnership as I have an order on the way, and it's going to be the perfect replacement for my daily soda and energy drink intake. If you guys are wanting to help me out as a creator and you're already familiar and buying some of the Dubby product, you guys can use the referral code that is on the screen. And if you guys are new to my channel and you guys don't want to get some of their energy powder, there is also merchandise on their website with the link in the description below.
We've got fast sweeping corners under the lights and 20 racers all ready to write their name into the quickly growing history of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Verstappen, Johnson, Perez, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Joe, Jackson, Hulkenberg, Mayer, Ocon, Sargent, Leclerc, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson is alongside me, as usual, for today's race.
Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix.
Let's talk about Mercedes. We've had a significant regulation change for this season, but from what we can gather at this early stage, it seems they've had some trouble adapting their car.
There are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they've been hit fairly hard by the new regs. But this is only the first step down a long road of development, and even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
All right, so here we are in Saudi Arabia. A lot better qualifying position than I thought we would have. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and stick with the medium to hard. I did want to tell you guys, if I haven't already, which I probably did with the commentary, but I felt a lot more comfortable in practice on those hards. You guys remember, see the time frames that we had for that. So we're going to drop it down. I'm going to drop it down a little bit more dangerously than I'm used to, because these walls can cause a big yellow flag. So really looking forward to staying in the points today to see what we can do with how we ran in practice and qualifying, even though we had a bad practice. So let's get to it.
The formation lap gets underway here in Saudi Arabia, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure their car's ready for the battle once the lights go out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
All right, as we are coming up to the slot here, see a lot of us in the top 10 using the mediums, and then 3 drivers, that of the Red Bulls, and I believe 1 other driver using the hards for the start of this race. We're going to be in the third row, start of the third row. See the McLaren and the Mercedes, and then the Red Bulls on both sides. The 2 Connor Sports not doing so good last week. Is there on the red side, and then the penalties there in the back. You see the Ferrari. As we're off for 5 red lights, 3, 4, and 5. Starting in P5, here we go. And we're off to a better start than we did in Bahrain with our revs. And bad angle of choice here. We're moving to the outside, trying to slot in between Norris. As Norris and Hamilton are side by side coming through turn 2 and 3. And Hamilton takes the early lead. We move to the right side and try to make as much as we can on Norris. As he makes contact with that wall, you can hear the scrape as we're coming through Sector 1, the start of Sector 2. And this part in Sector 1, we got caught on the curb and a little bit too far flat out as we made the Red Bulls go wide a little bit, trying to come back on the track. And then George Russell and the other Mercedes trying to make a move there on the outside. We give him his space and we fend him off here as we're a little bit of wheel spin or a little bit of oversteer as we're trying to stay in the tow of the two Red Bulls of Perez and Verstappen, currently in P3, P4. And you can see Russell leading a tow with Piastri and Sainz behind Gasly and Tsunoda for our top 10. Tsunoda and the Alfa Romeo Sauber, the Sauber team. As we make that first move, we brake a little bit early, and we lose a little bit of pace. You can see George Russell without DRS making the move on the outside. You can see him in the mirror. He's making the move now on the right side. And there's not much we can do except for push him as far wide as possible into this final corner. We try to stay in the tow of the two Red Bulls. The two Red Bulls staying somewhat close, but Perez already a second back behind Norris. Norris already 2 seconds back behind Hamilton as we move on to lap 2. And you can see George Russell trying to make a move again, but we fend him off. So yeah, successful lap 1 here in Jeddah. Not really any mistakes and no position changes as we move on to the end of lap 2. That's when we're trying to make a move still on the Red Bulls, and we end up braking late here. The two Red Bulls side by side. We slot in behind, I believe, Perez, and then we try again, make a move on Perez. That's Verstappen we were behind, and we make a move. We have a better launch on these faster tires on these mediums as we're coming through Sector 1. That mistake that we made on lap 1, it's not going to be the first time, as we try to stay away from the wall as best as possible. We have a lot better angle through here, but the exit of that apex was a little bit too much. Luckily we didn't get a warning there, but lap 3, Sector 2, side by side with Verstappen. He has the DRS. He was able to stay close enough, but Perez starting to fall back. He's already a second and a half behind us, getting as close as we can to that wall. Snap of oversteer as we're still within a half second of Max Verstappen, so we're going to be getting DRS here on lap 3. Try to stay with him as best as possible. You can see the DRS open. We're coming to the last corner, and I thought about doing a dive bomb, but I'm glad I did because I held my line. I'm staying as close as we can to Verstappen and Perez. Still 1.7 seconds back now as we're rounding out the end of lap 3. We're side by side with Verstappen coming into the start of lap 4. Perez losing the position against George Russell, and we fend off Max, going over the curb a little bit. And yeah, so Hamilton, Norris, myself for the top 3 at lap 4 as we move on to the end of lap 5. Almost the end of lap 5 as Verstappen is able to make another comeback with DRS. You can see the time difference between myself and Norris. 6 seconds between myself and the McLaren. Hamilton still about 2.2 seconds ahead. Verstappen making the move ahead of us. We're not fighting it, but we have George Russell right on our tail. It's going to be a train of 2 cars with DRS. We try to stay with Max Verstappen. Going to be pushing him to the inside. That way we take the outside line. In the following corner, turn 2, we will have the inside and be able to get ahead of him. We actually ran through this chicane a little bit better than I expected. We gave Max the room, but he ends up backing out as we move on to lap 6. And here's that mistake again. Got on the curb, we let off the gas a little bit and scraping the wall there. As I learned the hard way that you're not supposed to go flat out through here. So this is the second time we ran off into the runoff. That back end coming out on us. Losing position against Verstappen and Russell. And then again with Sainz in P5 now as we hold the inside line. So we're still back into P5 as we're trying to fight Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Oscar Piastri up to P7. Perez all the way back to P8. Gasly and Magnussen to round out our top 10. As we're about a third of the way through. Moving on to the end of lap 6. Carlos Sainz making a move with DRS. We're going to go right back at it with him as Piastri tries to get in the mix. Piastri tries to get in the inside, toe behind Carlos Sainz. We hold the outside line, and we have that toe, but we don't have that timing line to get DRS. So Sainz and Piastri behind us. Piastri trying to make a move on Sainz, but Sainz tries to make a move on us. He has to back out. We're side by side, turn 1, lap 7, with the Ferrari still fighting for P5, three-way fight for P5. As we're nearing around the end of the first stint, as I believe we're going to come in about lap 9. The Ferrari making a move there at the end of lap 7, start of lap 8, but we hold the inside line. As Verstappen, Russell, and Norris, Hamilton. So currently 2 Mercedes on the podium. Norris is still holding strong. 7.5 seconds between P3 and P2. Going over to the Alfa Romeo Haas of, I believe, Magnussen. And that's, I believe, Logan Sargent ahead. As we see a plume of smoke coming from the Aston Martin of Mick Schumacher. And yeah, the Haas nowhere to see. We're switching over to the onboard of our teammate Mick Schumacher, and you can hear it by the engine. It's going to be an engine failure. So he plume of smoke here. We're going to be turning around and taking a look as you see the Connor Sport and then the Alfa Romeo Haas coming back and ramming into the back of him, losing his front wing entirely, pulling out a safety car. Our teammate is out of the race for an engine failure. Just starting to think of how soon will it be before we get our first engine failure, as everybody is coming into the pits. And we're sitting in P5. Let's see where we're going to end up coming out of the pits, as we're going to be swapping over to the hard compound tires. And it is lap 9. I double checked and we were going to come in at lap 10, but with this safety car, changes everything. So we see Ocon coming up in the Williams, Sargent sitting in P17 already. Mick Schumacher out. We're getting out behind, I believe that's the Williams or the Alpine. That is the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, our rival from last season. We're right on the tail of him. We're going to be starting behind him after the safety car. As we move on to lap 10 now. The end of lap 10 is when the safety car is coming in, starting in P7. So automatically we only lose 2 positions from our start. Schumacher out, Hulkenberg back in P19, Callie Mayer and Jackson still back there, P15, P18. For this race restart, Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Sainz, Gasly, myself, Magnussen, Ocon, Perez for the top 10. Now we lose a little bit of ground, but that's no problem as we come to a race restart. The Alpine following as close as possible, as we still have that bug where if we try to make a move before the first corner, we have to get that position back, but we're holding the inside line and we break late against Gasly, forcing him over to the inside corner off the curb as we move into sector 1 and taking this sector a lot easier. We didn't get caught over the curb as much as we did last time, and I remember running in practice 1 on these hard tires. It's feeling very comfortable on these hard tires as you see the Ferrari side by side with the Mercedes of George Russell ahead, as we're already about 8/10 back behind them. Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, top 3 currently. Lap 11 as we're coming through the start of sector 2. We got a little bit too much curb. You see the snap of oversteer there as we're trying to stay with Sainz, because at the end of this lap, I believe the next lap, lap 12, we get DRS back again. As you can see, Gasly about a half second back behind us. We're trying to push this car as much as we can, try to get as much heat and wear into these hard tires. That way they can actually start pulling some action for us. You can see Gasly still trying to make a move on us on the outside in that Alpine. We hold the inside line and kind of let off the steering there, which my fault really. But Gasly 2/10 back and dropping back a little bit, but he's going to have DRS, and that mistake off of the start through sector 1. We're already 1.3 seconds now, lap 13, 3.7 seconds between us and the top 5. Gasly looking to try to make another move here through sector 2. See the Ferrari and the Williams closing in behind us, about a second back. As Magnussen still back there in P10. Leclerc moving up into P8 behind us as the Ferrari of Sainz is up in P5. They're 3-4 seconds ahead of us now as we're fighting, coming through to lap 14 now, side by side with our rival from last year. We might still have this rivalry as we kind of cut him off there like we did with Verstappen earlier in the race. As we're moving on to the end of lap 14, and he's coming back at us. Gasly still putting up a fight for us as we're still trying to catch up to Sainz, but now we're 5.5 seconds and on our way to 6-second gap between us and the top 5 as we continue fighting. But Leclerc is still right there, back up against Gasly, and it's a three-way fight for P6 this time as we move on to lap 15. And we hold off for now, lap 16, coming through sector 3. Leclerc made the position on Gasly. Leclerc now pushing on us. He has the outside line, trying to keep him on the outside. Once again, I thought about diving and just a little scrape, not too much contact. We save ourselves from hitting the wall. We have the DRS on Leclerc. Sainz ahead of him in P5. Now 6.2 seconds is the gap. 6.3 just about. We're back and forth with Leclerc for P6 as we're lap 17 out of 18 now. So this lap and one more lap to go after that. We're currently in P6, so we have to defend 2 DRS sections on this lap and then 2 more on the final lap. So as long as we can hold our pace against the Ferrari on these hard tires, which we're really starting to feel these hard tires on these last few laps. See Gasly back about a half second and then Leclerc back another half second. But lap 18, the final lap, coming through sector 1. We take it easy, and we kind of shouldn't have. We managed to let Leclerc catch up coming out of that chicane, out of those sequences of turns. Leclerc on the outside, and I had the idea, if I stayed close enough to him through sector 2 and 3, I can make that final lunge for P6 at the end of the race. That contact for that tire that you guys saw, he's already about 3-4 tenths ahead as we're coming through sector 2. And yeah, Pierre Gasly still close behind. You can't really see him in the mirrors as of yet as we're coming through sector 3, coming over that line. No warnings as of yet. No warnings luckily today for track limits. We come around this corner very well into sector 3, and yeah, following through the wall, staying on the inside. A little scrape there as we're trying to get as close as we can to the Ferrari. You can see the Alpine of Pierre Gasly on the right side. And we move to the inside, and the Ferrari blocks us off for P6. That's going to be a P7 finish for the second race of the season for another set of points.
All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
And that brings the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to a close as we reflect on the team's impressive performance today. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves. So let's review the updated driver standings. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. Some amazing talent out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Max Verstappen seemed to just effortlessly weave through the other drivers today without a care in the world. He was definitely my driver of choice.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend for them as they fight their way towards the top. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
All right, as you can see from the end of there, Charles Leclerc, we had a chance to overtake him, but if it wasn't for Pierre Gasly, we would have been able to get P6. We would have been able to get those 8 points for the race, as our teammate Mick Schumacher did retire. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and take a look and see. There's going to be a mechanical failure from our teammate Mick Schumacher. And then that was from a collision of Nico Hulkenberg. You guys saw it earlier as that yellow flag came out. It was real time. I just figured it out. So yeah. But P7 for today from P5. Only a drop of 2 positions for medium hards. I felt a lot better on those hard tires, but it was a bad mistake, even though that safety car kind of helped us with that pit stop strategy. And the top 5, they literally just, that mistake that we made after the yellow flag, they just launched and got away from us. So a lot of pace coming from them, as you can see. 11 seconds back from Charles Leclerc to Carlos Sainz, so 11-second gap from P6 to the top 5. But yeah, that was a very good race here in Saudi Arabia, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in Australia, as I hope our teammate Mick Schumacher will have a better time there, as yeah, so Esteban Ocon scoring some points, Kevin Magnussen, Pierre Gasly. As we go back into the standings, Mick Schumacher sitting there with 1 point alongside Esteban Ocon, so we still have a lot of work to do as we're diving into Season 2. So without further ado, that was our race here in Saudi Arabia for Season 2, Race 2. We will see you guys in the next episode for Australia.